3 years ago, I refitted a 40-year-old Contessa 26 and took her on an amazing 7,800 nautical mile ocean voyage. We crossed the Atlantic twice, but a knockdown on the second crossing and COVID-19 put an end to my solo circumnavigation. So now, I'm building a new boat, smaller, lighter, but more suited for a solo circumnavigation. The Wave Rover 650. Well, Rovers, we had a bit of a setback. Yesterday, I put on a fair bit of filler on the hull, and it should have been the last little bit I put on. I was planning to sand it off today when I got here, but there wasn't enough heat for it to harden fully. It's still going to harden, but it just will need more time. And that's one thing I'm running short of because it's October 27th, I think, and I want to be fiberglassing in a couple of days. And so tonight I'll be putting a little more filler on a couple of spots that I can see, but overall this is it for the filler. We will sand it back just as soon as possible, as soon as it's hard, and then we will hopefully not have any imperfections and we can carry on with the glassing. Anyway, that's the plan. Time to crack on. Put a dust mask on.
Yeah, I'm just going to go up and get one.
Early the next morning, there's a beautiful, beautiful sunrise at my homestead, Rover's Rest. But there's a chill in the air and there's frost on the ground. And to the left of the screen is the 24-foot by 32-foot shop. And inside that shop is a 12-foot by 12-foot room where Mrs. Rover and I live while I focus on building my Wave Rover 650. Just having a coffee here, responding to some of those great comments that you guys are sending into the channel. Keep those coming, please. One last chore to do before heading off to the boat shed, and that is feed the chickens and, of course, Mr. Speckles, our rooster. Well, it's the next day. It's October 28th. It's a Friday. The kids are going out trick-or-treating because it's almost Halloween. And the fill that I put on yesterday, despite having the fire going, hasn't hardened fully. It has hardened, but it hasn't hardened to the point where I can sand it effectively. For example, look at this. I just did a little bit of sanding. It's just clogging up the belt sander. That's not a good thing. You know, I can clean most of this off, but I'm having to do it every few minutes. It's not really an effective way of going about this. So I have folks lined up for tomorrow and Sunday to give me a hand to put the glass on the hull. I really don't want to disappoint anybody by saying, you know, we can't do this. I may just be able to sand some of the hull today and get here early tomorrow, get the rest of it done, get a cleanup done, and push my crew back until maybe Saturday afternoon and get the glassing done then. It's not ideal, but as Rovers, we know the best thing we can possibly do at this point is, you guessed it, crack on. Now at this point the epoxy is too soft to sand. It's just going to clog up the belt sander. but we can use a chisel like a scraper to remove a lot of that residue. Now, if you hold your chisel firmly and keep the beveled face away from you, you can actually remove a lot of residue, glue residue, and this is a good thing because this is residue that really is too soft at this point to sand away, but it's hard enough that you can indeed scrape it with the chisel. Once you manage to remove the high spots and level out the surface, it really does go quickly with the chisel. I interrupt this program to bring you a special message. Now, in the summer of 2023, myself and a number of builders of these 650s are going to gather in Halifax, and we're going to sail from Halifax to the port of Horta in the Azores. Now, I'm calling this the Joshua Challenge because Joshua Slocum was the first man to sail solo around the world, and the first leg of his voyage was from Halifax to the port of Horta. Now, in order to coordinate this and free up the time, my wife, Mrs. Rover, has been incredibly supportive, but she did manage to negotiate that before I can possibly leave on this circumnavigation, I have to build a small bungalow for her, and it's 1,300 square feet, and I'll be building that this coming summer. And I have this great piece of property. It's 5 acres with a terrific view. And the appeal is, if any of you want to help out with that project, if you want to come to Prince Edward Island for a holiday, I can't give you any accommodation, but I do have, like I said, 5 acres. So if you have a tent or a camper and want to help out, if you have carpentry skills, that would be terrific. But if you're eager to learn, I'm eager to teach. And this would be from mid-July until probably the end of September. And toward the end of September, we would be looking for someone who may have really good drywall and mudding experience and painting. And toward the July period, we'll be doing mostly framing and buttoning up the building to make it weather-tight. Anyway, something to think about. I'm giving you lots of warning in case you want to coordinate this with me. I'll leave my email in the video description, and feel free to reach out to me if you think you might be able to help us out in this respect. Anyway, back to our regular program. Now I save all the sanding flour, so it's basically wood flour. I'll show it to you in a minute, and it's a combination of sanded plywood and also the microfibers, the mini balloons, and any other wood flour that may have been in the mix to start with. So this will be a valuable additive later on when you go to make fillets. So I have about 3 of these yogurt containers full already, and I've already used some. So it's terrific stuff. It's basically, if you mix this with epoxy, you're making a composite wood, and as long as you sheathe that in fiberglass on either side with some tape or cloth, you'll end up with a pretty cool or a pretty good bond, a pretty good joint. So you can see it. It's really quite fine. Well, Rovers, we had a bit of success last night by tarping the boat, having heaters underneath it, electric heaters, putting heat up on the hull, having the wood furnace going. That's given us enough heat for the filling to get hard enough. Now, it's not fully hard, it's still not perfect, but it is hard enough to sand. I've switched to a coarser sanding paper, and you can see that that's just all filled right now. Let me just show you, though, the difference by just turning this on and using this, which is like a giant eraser. It's actually made for cleaning belts to give you a lot more life out of your belts, but I'll just show you. There we go. So we went from a belt that was fully clogged to a belt now that's entirely usable, and that's going to get me through to getting the boat ready to glass. Well, Rovers, I'm really pleased with the number of builders we have taking on the 650 project right now. We have 2, so 3 including myself, all within a short drive of each other right here. Another one on Prince Edward Island, one in Halifax, so that's terrific. I'll be able to take a short drive over and check on their progress once they get underway. Now, the prize for the farthest away has to go to Jean-Pierre in the island of La Réunion, which is located about 200 nautical miles east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. So good on you, Jean-Pierre. I plan to check in on you too once I get the circumnavigation underway. Anyway, Rovers, fair winds to all of our builders. Now, a little bit of business related to the plans. When we initially set the plans out, we did so at a discounted price, and that discounted price will be coming to an end on New Year's Eve of this year. So if you're interested in getting the plans at a discounted price, you only have a little while left. So time to crack on, I guess. I'd like to take a moment to add a new name to our benefactors bulkhead, Jetter. Now, these folks, along with the other folks on the benefactors bulkhead, have donated $100 US or more, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on her circumnavigation. These funds are much appreciated. And now Mr. Speckles is going to welcome on board our new patron, Andy K. Give us one more.